We are recording. Did you hear that? That was loud. All right, guys. I'm going to stop and share. Look at a gallery view. Hi. Ooh, look at us. Wow, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's right on the dot. Good afternoon and hello, everyone. You're watching the debut of a Soulful Chat. I am your host, Jen Stone. For those who may or may not be familiar with my work, I actually launched a series called the BaZi Gratitude Series, which actually came out during the COVID-19 lockdown. And we have 10 episodes today. You can go on my YouTube channel to check that out. But the genesis of that 20-minute series was meant to highlight and promote some incredible women in my network at a time when I felt we all could use some uplifting conversations, inspiration, but also to remind us to stay in gratitude. And along the way, perhaps learn a few new things and to meet the fabulous women who are sharing their gifts and doing their part to make a difference in the world. Well, today, a Soulful Chat essentially is a spinoff of that. Did you like that? It's a spinoff. The new platform came to me because I was craving for something more, something deeper. I just genuinely wanted to create an informal platform that gave us the space and the time to dive in and breathe into a conversational flow. So if you're wondering now, yes, a Soulful Chat is going to be a 16-minute live chat between me and a guest so that you can really hear their stories. So while we'll still be featuring some, business-related matters, a Soulful Chat will primarily explore important and relevant topics around navigating life, the challenges and wins that we all go through, and basically what it means to be human. And so with that, I'm very grateful for all of you for choosing to be with us today. This episode is recorded live. There will be no music, no editing, no special effects, just it is what it is. Raw, real, and soulful. And so here we go. I'm super excited to introduce a woman I absolutely adore. The 3 top things why I love her so much. Number 1, she is truly one of the most genuine person I've ever met. And I've met a lot of people in my life. And number 2, we actually have a lot of things in common. From the very, very big things, like we both lost our fathers, which we'll get into that a little later, to the little things like we both like Hello Kitty. And number 3, she has the best laugh. And so who knows, we may be shedding a few tears in this episode. I will make it my mission to make her laugh. And so by the end of this chat, you'll see why she is the perfect choice for being my first guest. And here she is, my soulful friend, Nicole Myden. Hi.
Hello. Oh my gosh, that is the nicest. I love you. I bow down. Thank you.
I feel like there should have been some applause. I should have brought in some special effects.
First of all, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I am honored to be your first guest. This is insane. And I just think this is so wonderful. I'm so proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Nicole, before we get into the formalities of your background, like serious space and what you do, let's talk a little bit about the backstory of how we actually met, which actually wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, not that
You're
long.
my new friend.
New friend.
Yeah, so we actually connected after I appeared on that nationally syndicated show, The List, with the beautiful Christina Guerrero, which she has a whole story that she should share anyway. And we were chit-chatting behind the scenes while they were setting up, and we were talking about BaZi, and then she came in and had her BaZi, and then suddenly I keep seeing this name, Nicole Myden. I'm like, who is this chick? Yeah, tell us.
Yeah. So a friend of mine that you just mentioned, Christina, who also came from Los Angeles to Scottsdale, I remember seeing her run your episode in her social media. And this was like over a year ago. And she was like, oh my God, you have to connect with this girl. Because for those of you joining, I'm very spiritual and very open to so many things. And we'll get into all of that at some point, I'm sure. But because Christina knows I'm so spiritual and so soulful, Soulful, she thought that Jen and I would connect not only as friends, but she thought I would have great appreciation for what BaZi's all about. So I had Jen's information kind of tucked away in my desk for probably well over 6 months. And it wasn't until actually at the very start of the quarantine in March that I actually first reached out, because it felt like it was the perfect time to dive into the work that Jen does. And it certainly was. So here we are.
And I feel like you've been my friend my whole life. And I feel like, where have you been my whole life? Like, how dare you?
How dare you just show up this year?
Yes. So I want to get into an introduction for you, Nicole. So it's kind of sit back there and kind of, wait there for 30 seconds. Nicole is often known as Nicole Magic Myden. And if you've ever had the chance to work with her or get to know her, you'll understand why that nickname is so fitting. Nicole grew up in Los Angeles and is a veteran public relations expert with more than 2 decades of experience in the entertainment industry. She got her first start at 19 years old when she was selected to work at the Cannes Film Festival in Paris, and got her big break interviewing in Sing. Hello.
Hello.
She's done it all. She's done it all. She's done the red carpets, the press junkets for films, and represented stars on television and film, many of which whose faces we still recognize today. But a testament to her work ethic, passion for cultivating meaningful relationships, and just her all-around big heart, it's no wonder she has built up quite the reputation as being one of the best and most sought-after person, which is probably why she still has celebrities and journalists on speed dial, ladies and gentlemen. She is also a 2-time entrepreneur. Her first go at it was at 25 years old, and then a second time around when she launched the PR Concierge a couple of years ago right here in Arizona. Today, she is focused on building a different kind of PR brand in the consumer product space, working with clients within the lifestyle, health, and wellness industries. Holy cow, I got that all out, Nicole.
You did.
Do you ever just like sit there and listen to somebody spout out your resume and you're like, oh my gosh, that's me?
Yes, it is. First of all, thank you for all that. And I love that I'm sitting here at 41 years old in the middle of a pandemic, listening to all of these things because, I think for all the business owners out there, we all get so caught up in our building sometimes that we forget to really honor the path and how everything has gotten us here. And I am in such a place of gratitude for all those things you've talked about that I've been able to experience. I've had so many wonderful opportunities, and I bursting with gratitude for all of them, whether they were good or bad. But I love that they've gotten me to this beautiful place I'm in today.
I want to share something with you, Nicole, and I want to get your comments on this.
Yeah.
Let me try and share my screen here because me and my PowerPoint slides. Who is this young woman here?
Oh my gosh, look at you. I love a good PowerPoint. So yeah, that was me for just a, little giggle for everybody because, I came out of the womb a planner of my life. I went to college and University of Arizona and was on a trajectory to be a broadcast journalist. And this event that you're showing photos of, this is me interning at the Cannes Film Festival right before I graduated college. And this was the trip that changed the entire trajectory of my career because this is where I learned about publicity and this is where the career started 21 years ago. So had I not applied for this internship and had I not gone on that trip, Lord knows where I'd be today.
Good heavens, Nicole. I mean, we were just messaging earlier about Nicole version 2.0. Just looking at your images here, I mean, who was she and what would you have told her knowing what you know today?
Yeah. Oh, wow. So many things that we don't have time for, but I have, her heart's still the same. I can tell you that, right? Her heart for sure was the same. But so set on a checklist, so set on a to-do list. Definitely laser focused, but not with the intention that I have today, or maybe the openness to the surrender that I have today, or the possibilities of also just having faith in God, right? I think when you're coming out of college, at least I think for my generation, I come from the generation where it was like you came out of college, you had to grind in corporate America, you had to get the house, the ring, the husband, the kids, the white picket fence, right? So this young woman was on that mission for those things to all happen by a certain time in her life, or else she would have thought she failed.
Mm. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's kind of insane to think. I mean, you said that you're 41 and you're very open about that. But you know, I still feel like you're not even halfway through your life yet. There's still so much life to live. But it's a bit insane to think that we've lived enough life to be able to have you know, that pocket of window to reflect onto the past, to
Yes.
say, wow, that's the accumulation of things so far, of all my heartbreaks and my triumphs and my ups and the downs. It's just you know, it's just a little mind boggling to reflect on that. And here's
100%.
I have this.
So this is a really funny story that I will just share for people. Talk about manifestation. So I throughout, so the picture of the young version you showed of me is also someone who worked her tail off. So I still carry that. I am my father's daughter. I am a hard worker, and I, just come from that hustler mentality. If you want something, you go for it, you make it happen. You give people your heart, you give them your kindness and integrity, but you work hard and you make things happen that you want. And so I was not one of those people that had a lot of people open doors for me. Funny enough, I've become the person in a lot of people's lives who have actually opened the doors for other people. But in my path, I had to open a lot of my own doors, which is okay. But also very humbling, right? So, I look back at these photos and, the reason I ended up at this event and at this internship and got to do all these things that you talked about earlier is because I just fearlessly went for a lot of things. And I did take a lot of risks that maybe a lot of people my age at that time would have been afraid to do. So I give gratitude to that. And part of the hustler in me was the girl in college who not only was studying and going through her courses in her life, but I interned every summer. So I was working for a magazine at the time in Los Angeles while I was in college called Teen People, which was kind of an extension to People magazine that most people probably know today. And because I told the editor or the woman I was interning for that I was already going to Cannes for this school internship, she had me go to this party that NSYNC was going to be at and write an article for the magazine. So here I am going on a college internship completely separate from this internship I'm doing at the magazine. And then these photos show the two worlds colliding. And at the time, NSYNC was the biggest thing on the planet. So, you've got Joan Rivers here, you've got NSYNC. I mean, this was just like, young girl like me growing up in LA. This to me was like dream come true. Like I was just so in my zone and so happy.
Oh my goodness. I wish I was a fly. I'm sure there's tons and tons of stories. We'll get into this right now. I figure we get the business stuff out of the way and then we can move into it. But not a lot of people really understand what PR is all about. And for me, I think PR is kind of like that puppet person behind the scenes. And the funny story I wanted to share with you is, do you remember when Mariah Carey kind of had a meltdown on MTV or whatever, and she's holding the microphone and she has her PR lady on the side trying to grab the microphone and trying to like tell us a little bit about, in a nutshell, what your job as a PR rep.
Yeah. So the joking way that I like to describe it is that we are glorified schleppers. I am in the business of doing all the things that you can imagine possible for my clients. Now that's how it started for me. Now I have beautiful, healthy boundaries. So I don't sit in that energy any longer. But traditionally, publicists are basically known as this kind of gatekeeper for a talent, celebrity, brand, or product to be the catalyst to convey that person's message or that brand's message outwardly to the media in a positive way. So in order to do that, you do wear a lot of hats, right? So for instance, like this reference to Mariah Carey, who I know you and I share a massive love for, original Mariah, love her,
Yes.
she's in my heart. You know, yeah, I mean, the wardrobe, the hair and makeup, getting them in magazines, preparing them for press tours, traveling with them, preparing them to speak at, you know, press conferences. I mean, any and everything you can think of. I stopped working with a lot of you know, high profile celebrities years ago, and now really focus on purpose driven brands and entrepreneurs. But it's really a PR person's role or a PR firm's role to take a brand or product's message and get them out into the press, like I said. So getting them on TV, getting them written up in newspapers and magazines, podcasts now, which obviously we didn't have years ago when I started out. But, you know, we want to put that favorable message out there, and we're that kind of middle woman or middle man to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, you know, when we sat down and shared a meal, I don't know, a month ago or so ago, and you were talking about all the things in the past, I feel like that was a whole different version of Nicole. Yeah. Today, right? And I guess in the next 40 or so minutes, just to give our viewers a little bit of insight, I do want to touch on 3 fairly big topics on loss, grief, you know, loss/grief, love,
yeah,
and spirituality, right? And so let me just shut this off so that I can see your face properly. And bye-bye, NSYNC.
I'm back, although NSYNC was really fun to look at for a minute. I forgot
yeah. Oh my gosh. So I'd like to start with grief first. Yeah. You know, I think that as a human and as a collective, we tend to have some resistance talking about this because it makes people feel really uncomfortable. Yeah. Yet it is one of the most sort of inevitable events that we're all going to go through, and that will always and forever change us. And there's no escaping it. So I mentioned earlier that one of the things we had in common was we both lost our fathers. Yours was a couple of years ago, mine 6 years ago. I'm not sure if I can actually play this, Nicole. You see, it came with all my PowerPoint slides, but let me see if I can actually share this scene so that our audience can take a listen. Do you see my screen?
I do.
Okay, so this is a scene from a Grey's Anatomy, if you're familiar with this TV show. And the 2 characters, George and Christina, are basically talking about losing their fathers. So I want us to just take a quick listen, and then I want you to comment on this.
Yeah.
You can't hear?
Mm-mm. But
maybe okay, it doesn't sound like you can hear it, and I'm pretty sure that other people can't hear it too. Okay. So I was prepared for that. Basically, Christina was saying to George that there is a Dead Dads Club, and you can't be in it until you're in it. And you can try to understand and sympathize, but until you feel that loss, you can't really know. And then George says, I don't know how to exist in a world where my dad doesn't. Oh. And Christina says, yeah, that never really changes.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. I mean, wow. So much resonates. So, you know, you showed pictures of me 21 years ago, you know, I think I was going through my life like a lot of people go through their life. You're just going through the motions and you're doing things and you're checking things off a list. But to your point, you kind of put death, oh, it's so down the road. I'm not going to lose these people until they're, near 100 and we have all this life to live together. I had never lost anyone super, super close in my immediate family till years down the road. I was very fortunate to grow up with my grandparents. I had all four of them around for a very long time, two of whom became like second parents to me, who both recently passed in the last few years. But basically what happened with my father was that I had just come off of, just to bring this kind of full circle, I had come off of multiple years, which you know well about, of going through a major transition in my life. I had chosen to walk away from an unfulfilling marriage, and I had gone through a divorce. I had shut down my business that I worked so hard to build by myself in Los Angeles, and I had gone back to corporate America. And then I soulfully was feeling disaligned to my life in Los Angeles. So I took a massive leap of faith. I left my entire network. I left all my friends. Something was pulling me to kind of come to Scottsdale and evolve and try something different. So I came here and I was feeling amazing when I got here. And this entire new purpose for me had lifted in my soul to serve people in a different way now with my business. So I restarted a business, not knowing anyone here. I, got myself out in the community. I was networking like crazy and just building. And probably about a year and a half into being here, I felt like I was riding high. My business was booming. I had called in and aligned to these amazing dream clients I had manifested. I started teaching workshops. I started my podcast. All these things were flowing, as I like to say. And then one day I was walking around in the outdoor mall where I live, just taking a little breath of fresh air, picking up some food. And my mom called me and basically had said that we had lost my father. And I know you get this, and I know anyone that has lost a parent would understand this, whether you're close with them or not. We were close, so even harder, as I know you get. But it was like I felt like my whole life ended for a minute. It was like I couldn't hear, I couldn't process. I just shut down. And then I, of course, started screaming and hysterically crying out in this mall where there's people walking around. So
oh my God.
It was such an out-of-body experience. And then I remember just feeling awful that my mother had to deliver this message and how much pain she must have been in, because I know she was with him. So it was a very discombobulating situation, and he died suddenly. So much of the trauma that I had to go on and heal was really a lot of that I had never had my final goodbye with him. And I had so much regret about that. I had so much anger. Basically, right after his death and his funeral, and until you've buried a parent, I mean, I to your point, you join this club that you've never signed up for. And for me, it's no surprise that people like you and so many wonderful people have come in my life that understand this level of pain. It is indescribable. And I have the most amazing friends and family. But until you've gone through something like this, you cannot put in to words the level of pain or trauma or what your life is like. So for me, my life is with my father. And then once he passed, I literally stepped into an entire new version of Nicole. And if I look back on that time and all the healing work I've done on myself that I've chosen to do. So what happened to me was that I was working to avoid dealing with it. And I was still going at that crazy pace. And I ended up hitting a wall where I physically and mentally just shut down. And I got violently ill and I gained a bunch of weight. And I went through all the stages that they tell you go through in grief. Now, this is over 2 years ago now. So since then, I have stepped back into the light because I have spent hours and hours doing so much deep-rooted healing work with spiritual fabulous souls like you around me and so many amazing healers that I work with who have really helped me connect to my father on a deeper level at this phase, and also make peace with death and understand that my connection with him is still evident every day, and learning to develop that relationship with him in the non-physical, and also understanding how my soul contract with him and the way and the moment he died is still part of my story. Because the reality is the healing I did through his death is actually going to lead me to my soulmate. And it's crazy to say that out loud, but I know he knows that, and I know he's working with me to make that happen. So I understand why my other marriage didn't work out, and I understand why I was brought here to Scottsdale, and I understand all of these pieces. Now, a week after my father passed away, we lost my grandfather, who was like my second father. So we're dealing with two back-to-back massive traumas within a 10-day period. I mean, I was knocked out. I had nothing left to give. And I kind of have been in that role my whole life with my friends, who's kind of that leader of the pack, the one who's lifting everyone up, the one who brings the joy, the sunshine, the energy, the calm, the reason, the plans, the activities, the coordination, all the things that I know you know and that you do. And so you can imagine how hard it was for me to try to juggle all of that, but also actually for the first time in my life, go like this and say to everybody, I love you, but if I do not honor Nicole and I do not take care of me right now, I will no longer be here. Like it got to that point. And so from that, of course, birthed now the last 2 years of living my life with such more pure intention, such more pure integrity, even more so than I had before. You know, you lose a parent, you become so mindful of how your energy is spent, who's around you, what you're doing in your life, where you're going. And I've just detached from a lot of outcomes. So I think that is a beautiful blessing and lesson that comes if you're open to it. My days are detached from outcomes. If I lose clients, I lose clients. If I lose friends, I lose friends. If something doesn't work out, I'm guided the other way. There's really no worry for me anymore in my life. And that only all came as a result of losing those two men back to back.
Wow, Nicole, you got me a little choked up there. My throat's a little scratchy now. Thanks.
No,
you know, I have a couple things I want to explore a little bit. You were talking about earlier on, you're kind of just doing your thing and your phone rings, and here you are, you received this terrible news. I remembered, you know, I was on my dad's bedside. I held his hand and I basically watched him take his last breath. And so I got to say goodbye. But even with that, it is still something that takes your breath away. And I remember this bizarre experience where you kind of look around and you're already filled with this sort of astonished anger that how can that person be eating food? You know, how are they carrying on their conversation when my world just ended? And it really humbles you when sort of, you know, especially if you're close with your parent, which we both were. I felt like the rug's been pulled right underneath me. And so talking about never taking things for granted, not taking the people for granted, telling them you love them, you need them, you care for them. And the second thing that you're talking about, that the death of your father, you know, in your heart is going to lead you to your soulmate. And, you know, I told you this story that when my father died, I basically laid on his bed for 3 hours. I didn't want anybody to touch him. And I prayed and I said, you know what, I'm going to love differently. I'm going to show up in my relationship this go around very, very differently. And so when we tie that back into your love that you speak so openly about, you know, and you've sort of described your relationship portfolio as like the movie 27 Dresses, always the bridesmaid, not yet the bride. And so, you know, how many times were you a bridesmaid before you walked down the aisle?
13 times, no joke. When that movie came out, I was like, they made a movie about my life. And it was an honor. But, you know, So, something you said, I just want to share for everybody, and trust me, you know me well enough to know I don't play victim to anything. There's no victim mentality here. These are just straight facts and straight experiences that I personally have gone through. But you're, bridesmaid 13 times, you're wondering, when is it going to be my turn, right? And I think the 1.0 version of me was in that energy of thinking, when I did meet my ex-husband, this has to be him, because it's got to be my time. I didn't understand until my father died and I started really expanding on my soulful journey and spirituality, that everybody's journeys are different, because our soul lessons and our soul contracts are different in our life. So for me in this life, I know that there were some very pivotal things that I had to kind of come full circle on. And I understand that that relationship I shared with my ex-husband, the relationship I shared with my father, and also where I'm at now with my relationships with people, it's all intertwined. I didn't have the self-awareness then to understand, because, like I said, our generation was felt, there was so much pressure. It was like, get married, have kids, do it all by this time. Well, look, I'm 41 years old, and I will say it and declare it on this webinar. I am going to become a mom still. I am going to meet my soulmate, and it's going to be a very busy next few years. So buckle up and enjoy.
I love it. I love it. You just sent it out to the universe there, Nicole.
Yes.
So here it is.
But also,
it's
too, I will say, like, one thing I was going to say about the grieving that I think was so hard, and, again, it's not to play victim, but it's just straight fact. I also was single through all that. So if you think about the energy of a single woman running a business on her two shoulders financially, hustling to get clients, servicing those clients, trying to grieve, trying to take care of your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, be there for friends, be there for clients, hold space for everybody, and then somehow heal and not have someone to give you that emotional space to comfort you at home. It was such a dark time for me. And for me, like you, because we're such light workers and we're just innately lighthearted people, it was terrifying to go through that. But like I said, I think that it's changed my relationship with death overall, because it's less daunting for me now to digest, and it's a more peaceful thing for me to grasp, which, it's not something that we want, but I have a better relationship with death overall now.
Oh, I guess, Nicole, what were some of the things that you did do that pulled you out of that darkness that maybe you'd like to share?
Yes. So, as much as I love to think that I can do everything on my own, and that's 1.0 Nicole, 2.0 Nicole loves to get help. And, not so much with the work in terms of my business. It wasn't about that. It was about me needing to surround myself. And I've always had amazing people around me, but I mean like teachers. So people like you, people like my Katie Kylene, and my deep rooted spiritual people in my life who understand what deep level true trauma healing entails, because losing a parent is traumatic. Losing someone without getting to say a proper goodbye, or, that's why I would never tell anyone, obviously I can't project to them how they should live their lives, but it hurts my heart when I see friends or family that are not speaking to family members, or that there's things that are, there's battles and stuff, because to your point, we can't take this time for granted. And I know, like, I make every moment count with everybody, because I never want anyone to leave my time with me feeling like they don't know how I feel about them. I already overly express myself to people, but I do it so much more now. I want every time I can get with my brother, my sister-in-law, my nephew, my friends, my mom. My mom and I are very close, and poor thing had to lose her father and her father and her husband in the same week. Like, she's the strongest person I know. And we want to savor every minute. And I pray that I don't have to go through that with her, where I won't have the chance to, say a proper goodbye.
Oh, do you think that spiritual journey is possible without some form of trauma or life-altering event? You know, I think that a lot of us are prompted, right? As humans, we love our habits. You know, we're creatures of habits, and we do our things, and we do take things for granted. That's why we have all these reminders not to take things for granted, or the people. But do you think that you know, for most people, they're just kind of doing their thing until something happens, and then it forces them down this rabbit hole called the spiritual journey? What are your thoughts on that?
It's such a good question, and I've thought about it so much over the years, because I think I used to go to a place of like, what did I do to deserve this? Why is God mad at me? You know, like we have these thoughts because we feel like innately we're such good people, and you go, oh my gosh, how did this happen? Or how did I make that choice that got me to that point? But the reality is, if I look back on the last 41 years of my life, and I look back especially to this last cluster of, we'll say 7 years, which I know you and I have gotten into on BaZi, and you knew before I even kind of shared a lot that those were a really difficult few years for me. But there's no way, like, if my soul came here to do what I know my soul came here to do, there is no way that I would have gone through a divorce, a total, you know, retransformation, and moving to a new state where nobody knew me, going through the loss of my grandfather and my father back to back, building a business. I mean, I'm exhausted just saying it. So clearly my soul needed to go through these things, but to take the spiritual path. It was my choice. It's like my soul knew. And I see so many people who I can't have these kind of soulful chats with, and they think I'm speaking another language. And so I often wonder to myself, maybe in this lifetime they won't have their spiritual awakening, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful I did, though. And I know that the people that are around me here have helped me on that spiritual path. And I would never have met them had I stayed in Los Angeles. I just wouldn't have. Our paths would not have crossed. So it all started with that divorce. And it was set off a chain of events in my life that, you know, I could write a movie about. I mean, it's phenomenal what has happened. And if my ex-husband was sitting here right now, I would kiss his face and say, thank you. Thank you for letting me let myself go and live on to the life that I know is meant for me. Because, you know, there was something in my belly that just knew that if I could open my heart up to just listen to this, you know, spiritual way of life, but not crystal rubbing spiritual, not this like, let's own together and go home and yell at someone in traffic. I mean, I'm talking about like deep rooted years and years, thousands and thousands of dollars of investment with high level spiritual folks that have opened my eyes to an entire new way of everything. So I'm grateful that my soul heard the bell ringing and went that way, because I can't imagine these tools and practices not as part of my day-to-day life.
How has your relationship shifted? You know, since when we make a choice, right? And oftentimes these types of traumatic events or life-altering events, I always say it in BaZi, is a kind of fork in the road, and it's our ability to make choices for ourselves to decide which path are we going to take. And based on that choice, we start to energetically reverberate in a different vibrant, you know, different frequency.
Yes.
And that shifts your relationship. How has that changed your friendships and family relationships, I guess, dynamic?
I mean, this one we could talk for 4 hours on. I'm still working through this, to be honest. I mean, this has all been very candid and honest, but that piece for me right now is something that I'm working through daily. I think what happens is that people become accustomed to you showing up in a certain way. So perhaps the older version of Nicole had less boundaries. I gave more energy to people freely. I always said yes. I would safely say that I let myself be taken advantage of in a lot of ways, and to no one's fault but mine. I wasn't aware of it. So if I look at my relationships now, they're very healthy, boundary driven. I say no to a lot of things that, I don't need to say yes to. The people around me either accept it or they don't. But this is what it entails to be friends with Nicole at this phase. I'm not willing to work myself to the ground anymore. I'm not willing to take on work for clients that aren't aligned, that don't pay me for my time, my value, right? So this spiritual expansion and this spiritual journey has changed the way I show up in work. It's changed the way I manifest. It's changed the people around me. It's changed the clients. I mean, everything has changed, but it's changed for the better. And if I sit and I think back to 10 years ago, Nicole writing in her journal saying, okay, here's how I want to feel 10 years from now, or here's the woman I want to be, I really feel like I'm embodying her. And it's not because there's $20 million sitting in a bank account. It's because on a soul level, I appreciate that you can still be a loving, wonderful person to your friends and family with a higher level of love and respect for yourself. Mm-hmm. And that piece for me was what I needed to nail down, thank God, before I hit 40. Mm-hmm. And that I feel like I came full circle for sure in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. I have a level of appreciation and respect and love for my soul now to enjoy the rest of my life in ways that I didn't before. And again, had I not gone through all those things, I wouldn't be here. Yeah. So I am showing up differently. I know that some people around me are probably struggling, not knowing how to handle this new version of me. It's just because I'm less available. The old version, though, would have apologized for it. And now I'm just sitting in it, I'm owning in it, and I understand that we're all doing the best we can. But somebody said something to me recently that really struck a chord, and it's that we can only be willing to cope with so much at one time. And I, as a single woman right now, with everything on my plate and everything I need to show up for, will only expand my energy so far before I just have to shut down and don't have to explain it anymore.
Yeah, you talk a lot about boundaries and saying no. And to me, that is the ultimate definition of self-love. And I recently read an article that describes self-love as being bold, because it is all about knowing your greatness and knowing what you deserve and going after it without apologizing. And it's almost like, can you really be that way without all those things? Right? That's the big question. Yeah. Nicole, what are you looking for now in love?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Let's manifest him. Manifest him.
So many things, it's funny. It's like, I have such a level of excitement at this phase of my life for all the things that are still coming in. It's like, I feel so excited about all the things I've gotten to experience, but I'm most excited to meet him now in this version, right? It's like, I have this vision that when we do meet, it's like our souls will know. It's like, oh, we came here to meet now and do this together. It excites me that he will be somebody who will be able to hold space for me. And he's somebody who also, no doubt, did a lot of his own work on himself, so that we're aligning at this frequency now. And, he's going to appreciate my heart, and he's going to appreciate that, that I have gone through all the things I've gone through. There's this connotation out there, like this kind of boss babe mentality with women and feminism. And I will say, like, I'm a very strong woman. I have had to be. I come from two very strong people, and I would never have made it through certainly the last decade had I not been a strong. I have such a fighter in me. But one of the things that I love about where I'm at now is that I have found this beautiful balance with my femininity again, and the balance of knowing that I can be really successful with work or anything I choose to do in life without needing to dominate and shout and hear me roar. Like, there's such a simplicity in my life that's so comfortable for me now. This kind of marriage of the masculine and feminine energy, and this is also what I know he'll be attracted to. It's less the Nicole, like, build hustler, like that phase for me is done. I've built 2 businesses. I've got a great reputation. I've been doing the same job for 21 years. I know my work ethic. I know what I can produce, but I don't need that to lead anymore. He's going to fall in love with me because my soul's leading.
Oh my gosh, he's coming, Nicole.
He's coming. Well, he's coming. And then, as you know, my biggest beautiful wish in this life is, to be a mom. And I understand also now why that's also going to happen later in life. And I want to share that journey too more with more women, because I feel like, however it comes to be, God willing, I'll be able to birth my own children. But if I have to go a different way about it, I will. And, there's this pressure on women. It's like, like I said, everybody has their own timeline and their own path. And so, the wisdom that I feel like I can add to a child's life now and to a partner now versus maybe when I was forcing it, 7 years ago, 2 totally different people. So it will be my honor to be a mom at this phase of my life. I just think that everything I've gone through is going to make me that much more of a better mom and partner.
Oh my gosh, yes, I totally believe that, Nicole. Here's the thing is one of your best traits, one of your best qualities, and you have many, many of them. When I was talking to you before, was first of all, how the hell did you get out of LA and not become so cynical and jaded? And, the marriage thing where you finally got your ring, you finally got the dress, and then 6 months into it, you're like, oh boy, get me out of this. And a lot of people can go through periods of cynicism and sort of this lost hope. Where did you get that insight? How did you get that strength in you? What were the tools that you had in your toolbox that helped you stay on track and not lose Nicole?
Yeah, it was very challenging. I mean, I could give you all the cliche but true answers. I mean, keeping grounded, keeping good people around me, journaling every day, I mean, everything from healing classes to sound baths to taking trips to meditation came in my life 7 years ago. I meditate every morning. Again, that detachment to outcome, that expansion in my connection to God and surrender and trust and hope. I went through so much turmoil in a matter of a few years that the reality was I had to look in the mirror one day and say, Nicole, what is happening here that somebody who's done so well in all these areas is getting tripped up time and time again over here? And it takes a lot for someone to look at themselves in the mirror and say, am I the problem? Maybe I'm not the sole problem, but I'm an equation and I'm part of this equation. I'm involved in this somehow. So what's happening? And the reality is that I was surrounded by a lot of people in LA who were getting married very young, who were having children younger, and everybody was checking these things off a list. And it would be ridiculous of me not to say that I wasn't feeling the pressure, right? Again, I wasn't self-aware enough to understand that my journey could and probably will look different than everyone else's. But when you're surrounded by that and it's in your face all the time, I think naturally as humans, we feel that, right? So stepping away from all of that and giving myself somewhere, I don't know, deep down, some in little fire in my belly, giving myself permission to step out of that and cocoon. You know, it's interesting that I landed in Phoenix. I had a spiritual advisor say to me that it's like I'm Phoenix rising, you know, like it's like this literal rebirth of my soul. And I feel that. I've been here almost 4 years now, and I literally can't even relate to the girl I was in LA, let alone to the woman I was when I got here, or even 2 years ago. So this safeness I feel here in Scottsdale and Phoenix, and the energy here and all the people around me, I really feel like have afforded me the chance to grow into, you know, this person I am today. None of the last few years have been easy though. I mean, I show up outwardly to the world, and, you know, I do share very, very vulnerably, but people meeting me for the first time, you know, would have no idea kind of what I've had to pull myself through. I will just say that what I've been through the last few years is not for the faint of heart. And, you know, it's not for everybody, but I do understand karmically also why my soul needed to maybe wrap a bow on a few of those lessons. And I really feel like there really isn't anything I can't handle. I mean, I feel well equipped and prepared to not only continue partnering myself through life, but partnering with someone. It's like, how could you go through all those things and rely on yourself in that way and not be able to show up as the best version of yourself and for someone else?
Oh my gosh, Nicole.
I love you.
Too bad we don't drink.
Too bad. Oh, by the way, yeah, didn't cope through any of that drinking alcohol. I don't even drink. So you can imagine how much extra challenging it was.
Well, Nicole, you are an absolute inspiration. The moment I met you, when we didn't even actually meet face to face. We met through Zoom, and I was like, click, click, click. I like this girl. This girl is here to stay. She is going to be a part of my tribe. And thank you so much for sharing your story and your energy. Before we wrap up, though, I want to do some fun rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Because they're funny, and why not? So are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, vanilla or chocolate?
Vanilla.
If you could be an animal, what would it be and why?
A golden retriever, because I grew up with them. I cannot wait to have my own, and I just can't get enough. If you know me, you know I literally follow like 500 golden retriever pages on Instagram. I love them.
Well, they're very cute and very family oriented and super loyal. So I guess that is you.
Yes.
Biggest pet peeve?
People that show up late.
Same here, sister.
Yeah.
Skydiving or bungee jumping?
Oh, neither. You'll never, ever, ever see me do either of those. I am fearless, but those are the two things I've always said, if for sure in this lifetime, I will never do.
Well, I did skydive when I was 19, but I think I was hungover.
Oh my God, that's hard. I could never have done that.
Okay. If you could share a meal with someone, anyone, famous or not, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. So many people. Well, I actually, this is more of a personal one, but I would say my great-grandmother, Nettie, because that's who I'm named after, and I never met her. So I would love the opportunity to get to know her more and have a meal with her.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. What are qualities of a great friend?
Oh, qualities of a great friend. Well, someone who can just let you be yourself, right? And someone you can laugh with. Someone who understands that if you don't get back to them right away, that you still love them. You know, someone that can just hold space for you and accept who you are, right? So like you, I think all the people that are in my life know, like, I love to check in with people. I love to send little loving messages, but I also get that back from so many people I'm around. So I think those things are so fun too, just to remind people you're thinking of them, and the ones that support you and cheerlead you and all the things that, you know, all the things.
You are really, really good with that, by the way. It
Oh.
gives me so much joy to get messages from you. I'm like,
Oh,
I got
and
lungs.
I was going to say the ultimate friend, like nowadays, are the people that leave good voice texts. Voice texts are my jam because we're all so busy or too tired or whatnot. But if you leave a great voice text, you can at least hear their voice and get caught up for a minute.
Yeah. Yes, that is very, very true.
Yeah.
All right. Sunrise or sunset?
Oh, sunset.
Ooh, sunset. Okay. All right. Name one person who is genuinely super nice in Hollywood.
Oh, someone who's genuinely super nice in Hollywood. Oh my gosh. The fact that it's taking me so long to think of someone actually says so much. Um,
Is
oh,
it Ellen DeGeneres?
certainly not. I know for a fact, but we'll save that for another one. Oh, I know. Sylvester Stallone.
Oh my God. That is so funny. All
Yeah.
right, Sylvester Stallone. I'm going to go watch his movies then. Just
Yes.
because you said
Yes.
that.
Yes. There are others, but that one came to mind.
Two more questions.
Yes.
If you were not in the PR media world, what would you be doing?
Yes, I would be, well, 1.0 version of me if she wasn't a publicist. She was going to be a broadcast journalist. So I was on a path to do that. I fell into PR. There are a lot of things actually that I am exploring. So it's an interesting time. Obviously we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I'm continuing to do what I'm doing, but I've been doing the same job for 21 years. And, I think it's also good for people to know that just because you get into entrepreneurship or you start out doing one thing, that it's a beautiful thing to give your soul permission to change that path at a certain time. And I definitely am getting a calling to probably do something else that's still serving people in a fun way, but maybe something a little different here in the next couple of years.
Ooh, stay tuned, everyone.
Stay tuned.
Last question. What are you most grateful for?
So many things. I really am that kind of little gratitude nerd that gets up every day and is like grateful for the roof over my head and the soft pillow I get to lay my head on and my little cup that holds my coffee. But truly, I would say like I really hit the jackpot with my mom. And anybody that knows me knows like we have such a close, beautiful, respectful, loving relationship. And I definitely would not be here right now, sitting here without her. I have needed her strength to get me through so much, and I've needed her love. I really don't know where I would be. So I give most gratitude for her and whoever's keeping her protected. And yeah, and for also for my dad, I feel so grateful to come from the people I did, even in my relationship with him now without him physically here, but I understand why I chose them as parents. And I also understand our contract here together. And it's a beautiful thing, when you kind of dive into that. So I have appreciation for where I've come from, and I have so much appreciation for where I'm going.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I can't wait to meet your mama.
Yeah, she can't wait to meet you.
And to be honest, I'm a little envious of that relationship, Maybe she can share some of that mama-ness with me.
She naturally does, like me. So when you meet her, usually people go, oh, of course you came from this person, because we come from a lineage of women who are just givers and givers. The one thing I know she would say, though, that she's learned from me is that I do put myself first in a way that I know her and her generation didn't so much, right? So there's a beautiful teaching relationship that's going on. And so it's interesting at this phase to kind of reverse the roles a little bit,
Yeah. I actually have so many more questions, but we are actually out of time.
Yes.
How is this possible?
How is it
possible? We have 2 minutes. I know, but oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for sharing your stories and your energy with me and our viewers. I'm going to pop something up here with your info.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
For those that are a small business owner, or if you know someone who is, and you're looking for some PR love, Nicole is your gal. And she is currently offering a 1-hour consultation to those that are looking to connect with the press, to promote a product or service. I highly, highly recommend you to connect with her. Her information is there at the prconcierge.com. Regardless, you will gain a friend. I promise you. I promise. I'm so grateful too to Christina for connecting us.
Yes.
Because she's the catalyst to all this.
She is. Thank goodness. I love her and met her in such a random way as well. So there you have it. The most random connections always turn out to be the best.
I love it. Well, thank you all so very much. Very grateful for your attention. I look forward to many more sharings, and I'm sure that we'll have Nicole again and again, and we'll see her in different versions of herself in the future. And I wish you all a fabulous, fabulous Thursday. Nicole, thank you, my love.
Love
I
you.
will chit chat with you soon.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all. So much gratitude. Bye bye.